A little change of pace today. I want to talk about what is happening with the Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes DLC. The first of the three DLCs was supposed to be released in August. The second DLC chapter was meant to release last month, and yet here we are approaching the middle of October with no sign of either of them in sight, and no update from the developers or the publisher about their status in over a month. But I'd also like to talk about some of the other problems and frustrations people are having with the game, like the handling of the Kickstarter rewards for backers. I feel like this is a topic that's of interest to many Suikoden fans, as the main reason we all backed, bought and played Eiyuden Chronicle was because it was created by Yoshitaka Moriyama and Junko Kawano, and it was billed as being the spiritual successor to Suikoden. If you're not interested in Eiyuden Chronicle, don't worry, there are more Suikoden videos on the way. I've just started writing videos about the True Runes and the War of Succession. I'll also do a Suikoden 3 character ranking video at some point. While this video will be discussing negative topics like the frustrations fans have about Rabbit and Bear, the Kickstarter rewards and the game itself, I'm not a hater of the game or the developers. I consider myself a big fan of the game. I happily backed the game on Kickstarter when it was announced. I thoroughly enjoyed playing both Rising and 100 Heroes. I've played through Rising twice and 100 Heroes 3 times. I have over 330 hours clocked into 100 Heroes and close to 400 hours between both games combined. So I'm not hating or being critical for no reason. As much as I like the game, and I do genuinely love the game, I have to admit, and you have to admit, that they've handled so many things horribly. Rabbit and Bear, 505 Games, the YT, it's a mixture of all of them that are partially to blame. It's been one disaster after another with them. Whether you love the game or hate the game, you have to admit that many things were and still are being handled very poorly. But let's focus on the Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes DLC for now. The Marisa DLC was originally scheduled to release in August. August went by with total silence from Rabbit and Bear and 505 Games, leading many to think that the DLC would be getting quietly stealth dropped in the last few days of the month. And then right at the very end of August, they announced that the DLC had been delayed. In a Kickstarter update, they said, "Due to the time needed to issue digital codes and send them out to backers free of charge, the Marisa DLC will be delayed beyond August. We appreciate your patience and will announce a new release date soon." This update made it sound like the delay would only be affecting the Marisa DLC and that it was delayed due to a code distribution issue. That they needed some more time to make sure that backers got their codes first, before it went up for sale to the general public. Which, at the time, I was thinking, okay, that's fair. That's a good reason to delay something. Backers should get it first, as the game wouldn't have existed without them. So that's as good a reason as any for a delay. I was actually going to make a video about this back in August when the delay was originally announced, but I decided not to because I, like all of you, assumed it would be a short week or two delay to get the codes in order, and that maybe, at the absolute latest, they'd announce something at Tokyo Game Show. But here we are, nearly a month and a half later than the original release date, and 2 weeks after Tokyo Game Show, and there's still no word from them about the status of the DLCs. And at this point, the delay hasn't just affected the Marisa DLC. The same DLC chapter was originally scheduled for September, but September has now also come and gone. As I said, a month and a half after the original release date of the Marisa DLC, and still no release date in sight and no word from Rabbit and Bear or 505 Games regarding the status of any of the 3 DLC chapters. So what exactly is going on with the DLC? Have the Marisa DLC codes taken much longer than expected for them to get from Microsoft, Sony and Nintendo? And has that now ate into their schedule for the other 2 chapters, forcing them to replan all of the release dates? They announced in the middle of May that they were preparing the DLC codes to be sent out. which means they likely started preparing for the codes to be sent out weeks prior to the update. They've had 3.5 months between the announcement of preparing the codes and the release date of the first DLC, and it's been exactly 5 months to this day and there's still no word on their status. If this was a code distribution problem, as they've mentioned in the update, they could have avoided this situation entirely had they just given out digital deluxe codes to all backers from day one. If it is a code distribution issue, they overcomplicated the whole process for themselves by needing every DLC code to be sent out individually. They could have simplified the whole process by giving every backer a digital deluxe code, or the base game code and a season pass code. It's a decision that many backers have been questioning and scratching their heads over since launch. Because now, instead of having to give out one code to backers or potentially 2 codes to backers, the way they've done it requires them to send out 4 codes to each backer. They overcomplicated the whole process for no reason, and the way they've done it not only creates more unnecessary work for themselves, by quadrupling their workload involving key distribution, or if you've ordered more than one copy to get it on different platforms, which many of us did, they've now octupled their workload regarding key distribution, which in turn creates more room for problems to occur with ET messing things up. They made the whole process unnecessarily difficult for themselves. Even if you have no news to share about the DLC, considering how much time has passed since the last update, a simple tweet saying, "We apologize for the delay regarding the DLC. We're still working on it and we'll let you know as soon as we have more information." A non-update update addressing the issue is better than ignoring your customers, because at least it reassures many of them that it's being worked on and that you're listening to them. It's not so much the delay that bothers people, it's the never-ending silence, the lack of an outright refusal to communicate, which is a very big problem with Rabbit and Bear and 505 games in general regarding the game. Considering the timing of the announcement of preparing the DLC codes, the original release date of August, the silence from them during that entire release window, followed by the literal last-minute announcement of the delay, and now at how much time has passed since then with continued silence, then missing the release date of their second DLC, and their awkward method of key distribution, this seems like it's either extremely poor planning on their part, or it's not a code distribution issue and they lied about the reason for the delay. Either way, it's not a good look for them. At this point, many of us don't believe it's an issue with code distribution, as they said in the update. A code distribution issue shouldn't be taking over 5 months to sort out, especially when they were so confident of August, September and October release dates for each DLC. I suspect that perhaps a combination of Moriyama's unfortunate passing, along with Junko Kawano's involvement with the Suikoden HD remaster, led to Rabbit and Bear running into issues with either the development of the DLC or the finalization of the DLC, and they're simply not ready for release. Now watch them announce the release dates for the DLCs tomorrow just to make me eat my words, but I'm just saying what a lot of us are thinking. But whatever the reason for the delay, it's disappointing that the DLCs have been delayed. I was really looking forward to playing through Marisa's chapter. When she was initially revealed during the Kickstarter campaign, I loved her design and she immediately became my favourite of all of the characters they revealed. That of course changed after playing the game. She's no longer my favourite, but I still really like her character. I love Yarnan and the Guardians. I'm really interested in who the Guardians are, their story and the lore behind them. I'd love to see more of them in the future, so I'm excited for her DLC. Marcus very quickly took the top spot as my favourite Eiyuden character when I got to play the game. He's hilarious. Playing through New Game Plus with Marcus in your party from start to finish led to some really funny moments in the game. Marcus's DLC chapter is the one I'm most looking forward to, while Sane's DLC chapter is actually the one I'm least looking forward to, and I'm sure that's going to be an unpopular opinion. But I have some gripes to pick with Sane's DLC chapter, and it's not because of Sane himself. It's because of how a certain story event was presented in the game. The description for his chapter is, "This story extension immerses you in the saga, viewing events through Sane's perspective and those who parted ways with Noah's troop to address a certain predicament within the Galdian Empire, what transpired inside the Empire during their time apart. Moreover, what covert roles did Sane and his allies undertake, influencing the unfolding drama from the shadows. Predicament, covert role, influencing the drama from the shadows." This is all pointing towards Sane's chapter taking place during the events towards the end of the game, where Sane and his group covertly rescued the Emperor's son from the control of Duke Aldrich, which turned people within the Galdian Empire against Aldrich and turned the tide of the war, allowing Noah and co to go on the counter-offensive and reclaim all lost territory. An event that, in the main game, happened entirely off-screen and was completely skipped over. You only find out about all of this during a meeting in the war room. A month has passed and your forces have recaptured all lost cities and territory. Aldrich is losing favour within the Empire and his campaign is failing. I can understand not showing the liberation of the recaptured cities. They had no named generals left, there is nothing to see. But not showing or letting us play through the events of Sane and his group rescuing the young Emperor, that is a major story event. That is not something that should be so casually skipped over and have occur off screen. It led to a rather rushed feeling to the end of the game. It hurt the flow of the final portion of the game. That event was too important to the story of the base game to skip over it the way that they did. Is anybody else bothered by the fact that a major story event wasn't shown in the game and was glossed over in a conversation and is now being turned into a DLC? Or maybe that's not what the DLC will be about and I'm getting ahead of myself with this complaint. But if the DLC is not going to be about that event, then I don't know what it will be about. Anyway, I'm getting a little off topic. It's going to be a very bittersweet experience playing through these 3 DLC chapters, as they're the final works of Yoshitaka Murayama that we'll ever get to experience. And because of that, I'm really going to pace myself. I'm going to take my sweet time playing through them and try to savor them as much as possible. It sucks that all of the DLC have been delayed, but delays happen. Whatever the reason for the delay is, whether it really is a key distribution issue, or if it's a development issue and the DLC simply isn't ready yet, it's disappointing, but it's not really a big deal. Even though it's not a big deal, many people are complaining about the DLC delays, but those complaints aren't because of the delay itself. People are frustrated, and the crux of the issue, the reason for most people complaining, is the endless silence and the complete lack of communication from Rabbit and Bear and 505 Games. And this lack of communication and refusal to communicate isn't just about the DLC. It also extends to the Kickstarter rewards, ET issues relating to keys, the many problems that still exist within the game. Before the announcement about the DLC delay, they hadn't made a post on Kickstarter for their backers in 3.5 months. They hadn't answered or addressed any of the questions or concerns people have been having. To this day, there are still people posting in the Kickstarter comments section and the update pages about their problems, all of which are being ignored. And there are still people commenting about not having received their game keys. They simply do not communicate about anything until they absolutely have to. So I want to quickly touch on some of those other issues fans have. I say quickly, but this is probably going to go on for another 10 or 15 minutes. One of the biggest issues and complaints many people are having is just how badly Rabbit and Bear have been handling the Kickstarter rewards. In the same update about the DLC being delayed, they finally gave fans an update about some of the physical rewards, which was over 4 months after the game was released. I understand they wanted to wait until they had something concrete to share regarding the physical rewards before posting anything, but over 4 months of silence before they gave an update is a bit much. People had been asking for months and months for any information and were met with total silence. And in that update, they only revealed information about a few items. The Playwright novel is almost ready. They're putting the finishing touches on the English translation. Now that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out. They received samples of both the badges and the enamel pins. The enamel pins look nice, but neither of them have entered production yet. And they finalized the design for the vinyl cover and record colors. I'm not really sure why this design took so long to finalize, as they've quite literally just used the cover art and the bad Western cover art and slapped them on the front and back. But here's the gripe many fans have. The silence, and it keeps coming back to this. The silence and lack of communication. The constant being kept in the dark and the ignoring of questions and concerns. We're now 6 months after the game's release and nobody has received any physical or even digital backer rewards yet outside of game keys. There's no information at all on the steelbook, the trading cards, the CD, the art book, the figures, the t-shirt, the snappies, the cloth map, the Chibi Kara figures, the tote bag, the journal, the apron, the stickers, or the replica of the main character's weapon with the acrylic stands. Did I forget anything? 6 months after the game's release, and there's still no information about 75% of the backer rewards. The fact that they've given no information about any of those things likely means they haven't even received samples of them yet, or they're still in the process of designing them. By the way, I'd just like to point out that backers who pledged for the digital art book and digital soundtrack haven't even received those yet. Now, to be fair, maybe the digital art book isn't finalized yet, as that's likely going to be a PDF of what the physical art book will be. But the soundtrack? I can't really think of an excuse not to release the digital soundtrack, unless they're waiting for the physical soundtrack to finish production so they can release them side by side. But non-backers, people who either pre-ordered or purchased the digital deluxe version of the game, received a mini soundtrack and mini art book. Does that seem fair to you that they gain access to part of it before backers did? That doesn't seem fair to me. I think they should give out the digital mini art book and digital mini soundtrack to people who pledged for either the digital or physical art book and soundtrack as an apology for how long it's taking. But that won't happen because that would be the decent thing to do for your loyal backers. I'd also like to point out that while they've only just received samples of the enamel pins for backers and there's no word on the tote bag, a collector's edition of the game that released in Japan at launch 6 months ago included physical items such as coasters, scarves, glasses, and, you guessed it, enamel pins and a tote bag. It also included reversible cover art. So all of these things can be ready for a collector's edition release in Japan at the game's launch. But here we are 6 months after the release of the game, and they're only just receiving samples of a select few items from the backer rewards. While physical copies of Eiyuden Chronicle Rising included trading cards and a full physical soundtrack with each copy. I get it, the trading cards and soundtrack that were included with Rising were manufactured by Red Art Games. The Amazon Collector's Edition stuff for 100 Heroes was likely done by a separate Japanese manufacturer. So why are they having such difficulty and making such slow progress with the Kickstarter rewards for backers when they've had far more time to produce these physical goods than they had with Rising and the Collector's Edition of 100 Heroes? Why are they not lighting a fire under Yeti and the other manufacturers? Why are they being so quiet about it? People would be less frustrated and less vocal about their complaints if Rabbit and Bear, 505 Games, and Yeti would be more open and honest with how they communicate and keep backers informed and up to date. But they did say that they're preparing plans for backers to choose how they want their physical goods shipped out. But if those plans they're preparing are anything like the way they were preparing the DLC codes, you're going to be waiting a very long time. But the plans are that you can have the physical rewards shipped out to you individually as they become available. Don't do that, by the way. Do not do that. The shipping costs will be astronomical. We've already seen Yeti charging outrageous amounts of money to ship the physical game months ago. If I remember correctly, they charged me about €15 to ship a single Switch game. and many people complained they were being charged upwards of $20, and some people were being charged almost as much for shipping as they paid for the game. It was a whole big thing that many people in the community were complaining about. It actually ended up being cheaper for non-backers to buy the game from an online retailer and pay for shipping than what backers had paid for a physical copy plus shipping. So if you've backed for multiple physical goods, I'd strongly recommend you wait to bundle them all together into a single shipment, because Yeetie will bend you over and take you for a ride in shipping costs. And I mentioned the reversible cover art earlier, so let's quickly talk about that, because that's another complaint that people have. The classic bad Western cover art, which is based on the abomination of a cover that North America got for Suikoden 1. This reversible cover art was originally meant to be a physical reward that was included with copies of the game, but that was changed and then it became a digital reward that you have to print off yourself. This was actually silently dropped on Yeetie weeks before it was announced by Rabbit and Bear. There's something I want to point out about this cover art. Take a look at the picture of the cover art they've shown in the update, and then we'll compare it to what's been uploaded to Yeetie. As you can see in the Kickstarter update, each cover has the corresponding console logo. Now let's look at what's on Yeetie. None of the images on Yeetie contain the console logos. There's no Switch logo, no PS4 or PS5 logo or strip along the top. They uploaded incomplete images. The reversible cover art is also not reversible, and it's only for the front of the case, so you have to print this off and slide it over the front cover of your game. I'm not sure they know what reversible means. To make up for this change, they offered the bad Western art as wallpaper. I don't really know how that's making up for it, but hey, it's something. There are also other cases of unfulfilled or altered promises that they made to backers that left many backers frustrated. The Golden Cat DLC, which was promised to backers, was cancelled. Asynchronous mode was scrapped. The Castle Themes pack, which was supposed to provide a Japanese or Chinese themed skin for your castle, was replaced with a simple paint skin to change the colour of your castle. And the Battle Defense mode, where your base would be periodically attacked, was changed to the Mock Battle minigame. None of those promises were fulfilled, and their exclusion from the game wasn't even announced until after the game had released. They would have known months in advance that this content wouldn't have been included, but they chose not to say anything until after the game had released. You see how with every issue fans have, we keep circling back to communication. Every issue, at its core, all of the fan complaints are because of that lack of communication from Rabbit and Bear and 505 Games. Delays happen, and sometimes content or features change or get cut because they no longer fit the scope of the game, and most people are understanding of that. Many fans may be complaining about the DLC delays, the Kickstarter rewards, the unfulfilled pledges, and the issues with the game. But they're just easy targets for people to vent their frustration over the real issue, their annoyance over the lack of communication and being left in the dark. There are still, to this day, people commenting on Kickstarter about having not received their game keys, asking, begging and pleading for any information about the status of backer rewards, all of which go unanswered. People saying they've been emailing them and receiving no replies. None of these issues people have would be issues if Rabbit and Bear and 505 Games kept open and honest dialogue with their customers regarding the status of everything. It's not difficult for someone at Rabbit and Bear or 505 Games to hop on Twitter and send out a tweet saying, "We hear you about the DLC and the Kickstarter rewards. While we have nothing new to share right now, rest assured we're still working on it and we hope to have more news to share with you soon. We apologize for the delay." I will never understand why companies believe going the silent route is the right thing to do. All it accomplishes is frustrating your customers. And the longer you frustrate your customer, the bigger the problem you're making for yourself, because that frustration will eventually turn into anger and hostility. You hurt goodwill, you hurt trust, and you hurt the desire for your customers to want to support your company and your products in the future. Nostalgia, name, and brand loyalty can only get you so far. The poor handling of everything surrounding this game's release, the Kickstarter rewards, and everything else has lost them a lot of goodwill with fans and customers alike. I know this video has been critical, but the criticism about these topics is warranted. I'm only discussing the many complaints and issues that fans and backers have had and continue to have. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of Yoshitaka Murayama's work, and like I said at the start of the video, I happily backed this game when it was announced. I really enjoyed the game and I had a great time playing it. I played through it 3 times, I have over 330 hours in the game. I wouldn't have put that much time into it if I didn't love it. There are many things about the game that I love. I love the soundtrack, I love the cast of characters, I love the voice acting, I love the theatre minigame. I must have spent 30 to 40 hours alone playing with the theatre minigame. The card minigame was a lot of fun, if a little too easy. I probably put about 20 to 30 hours into that. And I don't even know how much time I put into the hero mode, endless mode in the dungeon of your castle, but I leveled every single character to level 99 in that mode. Marcus is one of my favourite characters ever, not just in Eiyuden Chronicle, but in all of gaming. Taking him with me from the beginning of the game right through to the end of the game in New Game Plus was hilarious. Watching him chime in with ridiculous comments and remarks about everything had me laughing every time he spoke. And I know I'm in the minority on this one, but I really enjoyed the Big Oma minigame and questline. I'm disappointed the DLC was delayed, as I was really looking forward to playing through them. It was an easily avoidable delay caused by poor planning on their part. But it is what it is. It's delayed and we'll hopefully get it soon. I'm really looking forward to being able to play it, and I really want to get my hands on the Marisa and Marcus DLC chapters. If they make a sequel or another Eiyuden Chronicle spin-off, will I buy them? Absolutely. I definitely will, because I had a great time playing it and I had a lot of fun playing them. If they go the Kickstarter route again, will I back it? I don't think I will. They've handled everything about this so poorly that I think I just wait it out and buy it at release. But that's it for this video. Are you disappointed by their handling of backer rewards or the DLC delays? Are you annoyed by how poorly they communicate with fans? Which of the DLCs are you most looking forward to? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching guys, and I'll catch you on the next video.